And on my backup, Emmett, do you want to do the intro and everything there?
Okay, we'll bet away. All right, guys, you are listening to the Five Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast. As always, I am Mark number one, Mr. Schmig, joined by Mark number four. Am I right?
Or Mr. Martin 115.
And who are we joined by today, Martin?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by a very special guest. We've kind of talked about an interview coming up, but we have someone very special here coming all the way from OTT, from the Irish wrestling scene. It is Nathan Boots. Boots, how are we doing?
Doing good. How are you guys?
Not too bad now, not too bad. So we're just going to talk about kind of box standard stuff here today, kind of get to know you, for all the people that might listen from the Irish wrestling scene as well. They get to know you a bit better as well.
Exactly.
But I'll start things off kind of plain and simple. There's one question Emmett had asked us on the earlier shows, but tell us how did you get into wrestling? What was the first wrestling memory in your head?
So my mother had watched wrestling when she was younger. That would probably how I really got into it. But my first memory of wrestling was for some reason Kurt Angle and Vince McMahon having a segment with each other while Kurt Angle was on crutches and I think he was GM of SmackDown, like 2004-ish. I think that's like one of the first memories I vividly remember turning the channel and seeing that, and I was just like, "What's this? What's this thing?" And then it's a blur up until No Way Out 2005. That was the first pay-per-view I ever watched, and yeah, from then just hooked. So I just became a huge fan. I tapered off at the start of my early teens, but about 2015 I started really getting back into it, and then I discovered OTT and Irish wrestling. I was like, this is possible, I can do this is at my doorstep. So that's mainly how I got into wrestling, was just channel surfing, and Vince McMahon's orange face was just like, oh my god, I love this. Wow.
And how did that decision come about then for you to be like, okay, I've watched this for years? Because it's a big decision to make, that I'm actually going to jump in between the ropes, everything like that. Did you go out and get a feeler for it first, or how did you go about actually getting involved in pro wrestling?
So it was a dream of mine since I was 4 years old. I always wanted to do it. And like I said, when I kind of tapered off from wrestling, I kind of lost interest. I wanted to direct, I wanted to act and do all this other stuff. But once I was I just forgot about wrestling, buried it. It was just that doesn't exist anymore. Goodbye. And then when it started coming back up, I was like, oh, I remember I used to want to do this. And I watch it a bit more, and I'm like, maybe I do want to do this. But then what really kind of sparked my I need to do this. I was a huge Kenny Omega and Young Bucks fan back when Wrestle Kingdom 11 and such. And I became a really big fan, and I heard they were coming to Ireland, and it was the second time I had ever heard of OTT. The first was I was in the wrestling shop in St. Stephen's Green. I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me right now.
The one that's on that top floor. Yeah.
And I heard about Finn Balor coming to OTT, and I started watching a few of the previews. But when I really wanted to go was when the Bucks and Omega came. And unfortunately, I think that was an over 16 show, and I think it was over 17s, whatever it was. I just wasn't old enough to go, so I kind of missed out on that. But then that kind of I'd start seeing, the schools were there, and I'd started researching into it, and I was like, okay, but it was more so the older side of Irish wrestling. I wasn't getting main stage where Joe and Karen, we were teaching at, but I was kind of Celtic Irish wrestling, wherever it was called. That school was coming up for me, but I don't think it was even around when I was looking at it. But then fast forward to 2018, I got to attend my first Scrapper Mania, and I got to meet Jordan Devlin. And as we were interacting, he's I'm a bit of a large man, so I kind of towered over him a bit, and he made a comment about it, and he was just like, "Hey, would you ever consider training?" And I was with my mother at the show, and she was just like, "Oh no, no, he'll never do that. Nope, nope, I won't let him." And then I was like, "Oh, maybe, maybe." He's like, "Oh yeah, you should come down to the school in Bray." I think Fight Factory was still in Bray at that point,
Mm.
and I was like, "Oh yeah, I really want to do that." And just things started getting in the way. And then where I was living at the time, there was like no way I could do it by myself. Where I live now, like I can go up the train and come back, no bother. But at that point, it was just impossible. So I had to rely on my mother or somebody else to take me. But I didn't want to tell people that I was going to train.
Mm.
Um, but eventually, like, years went by, and then 2019 happened, and no, sorry, 2020, um, the lovely year of 2020 occurred, and I was like, "This is it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to train." And then 2 weeks before I was going to train, I was going to train at the Easter break, and lockdown.
Oh
So
God.
that was I was 2 weeks away from actually starting, and then I had to wait another 2 years or a year and a half before I could actually start. So that was taken away from me, and every single month I was looking at the School of Irish Wrestling, um, the School of Irish Wrestling Facebook page, refreshing it constantly, just trying to get an update. And early 2021, when they got the Talis School, and they posted like a teaser image, I freaked. And then Joe sent out, or the school sent out, the tweet saying that the school is going to be reopening. I can't remember the exact date, but in August of last year. And me and my girlfriend were just like, let's go, like let's do it. And that 2 or 3 weeks but leading up was the most excited I've been in my life. I could not wait. I was in work, I was in a shitty factory. Oh, sorry, I didn't actually ask. Can I curse?
Oh yeah,
man,
work away.
I was just making sure. It will just come out of me. But yeah, I was working in a factory. It was like 14-hour shifts, and I was just booked the day off. Didn't tell my mother. Told my girlfriend's parents, but just went up and just did it and see if I could do it. And I got there, and it was the first time I actually touched a wrestling ring as well. Because like at the OTT shows, you see kids like going to jump in there, but I purposely just like was like, no, I'm not touching that ring until I'm stepping
Wait,
foot into it.
wait for
So
it.
yeah, like that was a special moment for me, and like getting to feel it and actually getting to feel the ropes and realizing that is not soft at all. I maybe regret this. Um, but yeah, just that day there was a boatload of us, and yeah, I got to train for the first time, and it just felt right. I got the best compliment of my life, I think. At that point, I was running the ropes, and like we had so many people, and we had two rings in the Tala school, and so half of us were split into one ring and half was in the other. And I was in the ring with it was um Joe, Sean Guinness, and Fabulous Nicky. And so I was in that ring, and we were just being taught how to run the ropes. And I run the ropes, and Joel's just like, "Oh, I'm guessing you've done this before."
No, of course, I've done this before.
Yeah,
Like, oh,
definitely.
oh.
So like that moment, I was just, "Oh, this, I'm meant to do this."
I've got to ask you. So, like, with you hear like if you with other wrestler interviews, they always talk about like people always want to do this until they actually go try it and
Yeah,
take that first bump and then go, oh, maybe this isn't for me. First bump, what was it like?
I remember it like it was yesterday. It's one of those things I didn't think I'd actually remember, but like I took the bump and I didn't think it was that bad, because we did like we had to like sit down on somebody else and then like just fall back like that. So it wasn't like a first like full bump.
Yeah.
But later that day, oh my god, oh my god. Both me and my girlfriend were just like, "Ugh, could not move. We fell asleep after, like, when we got home, and then when we woke up, we were like statues trying to move. It was god awful. So the actual bump, since maybe I was just like full of adrenaline, I just took the bump, and I was like, whatever,
That's nothing.
that's nothing. And then my body was like, no, Nathan, you're sore. You are sore. So yeah, definitely. I definitely saw in certain people that were there that I saw take a bump, or maybe like the week after, like I saw them take a bump, and it was like, oh, okay, this isn't pretend, this isn't like as fake as I would like it to be. So yeah, I definitely saw in other people that, holy shit, this is sore. Well, for me personally, I knew it was going to be sore. Then it happened, and I was like, oh, that's not that sore. And then my body was telling me the opposite. So yeah,
Your body did one of those you thought moments.
yeah, exactly.
I think eventually everyone kind of has that like realization, because like I remember I went to a SmackDown live show in like 2018,
Yeah.
and like like the outside, how it's all kind of just mats. I thought,
Yeah.
oh, that must be a soft landing. Like I went up and I was like, oh my god, that is not a soft landing. And they do this, but like having your first day, taking the first bump, and as you said, you learned, got to learn and got a compliment from Joe. What is it like getting to, we'll say, like learn from like Joe and have him teach you, we'll say the basics of wrestling?
I think my group that I started with, not only are we like in my humble opinion, we are a great group of lads that like really want each other to succeed, which is probably very rare for wrestling, and the amount of talent that we have in our beginning stages, like we're all just a year in. But getting just I've lost my train of thought now. But just getting to actually talk to Joe for the first time as well, like that big aura of Joe kind of like crumbles a little bit, but he does put up a fight before like it fully comes down. So you get to get into the ring, and you get to learn from somebody that has just traveled this world and done this for like the last 20 years almost. And there's just small things that you don't think you're doing wrong, or you never thought about wrestling. He'll just be like, when do you ever see a wrestler do this or that? And you're just like, okay. And you take your step back, and you really like, he knows what he's talking about. And he can be very, very scary at times. You can get in that ring and be like, oh, I don't think I want to do this. This doesn't. Oh, Joe seems like he's not having a great day. But you get in there, and yeah, just I think he understands not only the wrestling side, but he can really open your eyes to how to where to look at wrestling, not necessarily like at moves, but really where, for lack of a better term, where you make your money. And he can really direct you into that point, because that's what he did. He before coming back and running OTT, he got his name out and his travel the world on the Omen gimmick, and he talks about this a lot. Like, is this demon, whatever you'd call it, that he wrestled with like for I don't know how long, like 10 years. And he got to travel the world with that because he understood where to direct that character. And that's what he kind of teaches us. And that's where I get the most from Joe personally. And then we have like other trainers there, like Martina comes down every now and then, and she can really just direct how you structure a match. I feel like she's actually been able to, kind of guide me where to use certain stuff and how to get your character over in certain places. Paddy, like, talk about like one of the purest, just amazing people. Just not away from wrestling as well, but like just in wrestling, like if you need a question answered at all, or if you need to get over something, or you need to learn something in wrestling, Paddy will just make it like that. You will struggle with something for 5 months, never have a Paddy class, and then you go in, have one Paddy class, and it's fixed. Paddy is the smartest person in Irish wrestling, and I am. If you are ever thinking about just trying out another wrestling school, if it's somebody from a different country, or if it's somebody that's in this country as having traveled up to Dublin and is a bit unsure and they don't know if they want to, you know, come to Dublin and train in the School of Irish Wrestling, come to one Paddy class. Like, he will just open your eyes to wrestling like no other trainer does, and I'm gushing about him, I'm fanboying about him. I'm absolutely devastated that he is no longer wrestling, because I genuinely, one of my dream opponents, as soon as I started training, one of my dream opponents, and then bastard retired. But that was like an all over the place
Oh, it's grand.
answer. But yeah, I think the School of Irish Wrestling, especially, like, really, I think you can benefit because you get multiple trainers, and you get Lee as well. Lee is one of the best technical wrestlers in Ireland, and you get to still learn from him as well. Or LJ Cleary, I don't know what I should be saying, but yeah, and Lee is, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but he's a nerd for wrestling, so he can really, you'll do something and he'll be like, that's kind of similar to this thing, and he'll start connecting the string and it'll make you think about wrestling in a different way. And then we have seminars that come in, and we have some of the best seminars that, I got my second month of training, I got to have a Will Ospreay seminar.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so like
Jesus.
that's like, you get a great opportunity in the School of Irish Wrestling, in my opinion. That Ospreay seminar was pretty cool as well. It was supposed to be a Will Ospreay and Aussie Open seminar, but certain things happened. So, but
if I could ask you, from that Will Ospreay seminar, is there one thing that you can remember, like, that kind of sticks to you, like, I'm gonna put this in my wrestling repertoire now?
Yeah, there's a few things. The main thing is like using my size. Like, there's already I didn't consider myself a big. I'm a chubby guy, but I didn't think I was like big guy for wrestling. Especially like, you see people that are like 6'7", like they're big guys. I'm only 6'2", like I'm not that big. But on this island, I technically am kind of a bigger guy. So he really took a liking to my look, and he just kept calling me Morishima. Do you know, the Ring of Honor wrestler? Anytime like he would have to address me, he'd be like, Morishima, here you go, here's this and that. But he stopped me. We were doing a drill, and he stopped me, and he was just like, you need to convey or show that you are this big hulking bastard. And he really stopped me for like 5 minutes just to redo the drill like 2 or 3 times, and really drilled it into my head that like I need to convey my size, which to this day, like, I think has been one of the biggest eye openers early on in my training. Which again, second month, it's weird. Why did I have a Will Ospreay seminar in my second month? Well,
Have you found, like, in your time wrestling so far, though, even between training and where you are now, have you found yourself, have you had to catch yourself at moments, in moments like that, and be like, okay, I've got to keep my professional head on and can't like mark out or anything in moments like that? Because I know myself personally, if I was there with Osprey now, I'd be like,
yeah.
it'd be lost to me. It would go over my head because I'd be lost in that moment. Like,
Oddly enough, when I started training, I was just like, oh, that's the fabulous Nikki. Oh, that's Scotty Davis. Oh, that's Karen. That's Session Moth Martina. Oh my god, blah blah blah. But after Osprey, like, I oddly stopped caring somehow. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. I don't know what's wrong with my brain, but yeah, like saw Rob Van Dam, said hello to him. I was like, oh yeah, that's Rob Van Dam.
As you do.
As you, yeah, as you casually like just say hello to Rob Van Dam every day.
Oh, hey, Rob.
So pal. But I think after December, after I met like Will Ospreay and had like a good conversation with him, after that, like I think all the jitters of meeting these stars like has gone away. I can't think of anybody that I really like. Carlito was going to be a pretty big one for me. I can't wait to meet him. Hopefully, I don't embarrass myself for that one. That one, I think would be really cool. I might get a picture of him, maybe. Eddie Kingston as well is going to be really cool to meet. But other than that, like I don't really. It's probably because I was a fan of like these OTT wrestlers for years, and then I've gotten to know them, and some of them like I can have a just shoot them a text right now, and we'll have a conversation with them. So there's things like that I kind of that's kind of like eased me off on like getting starstruck. And then as well, like not fully, but I've broken down the veneer of Joe a little bit. So like if I can do that, I can talk to anybody. So I'm good.
Joe's gonna hear this now and just be like, time to step it up. Nope.
He's just gonna block me on everything. I have to like send a mail or something to get in contact him.
But you've done your training, yeah, you've had all the seminars, and then you get to your very first match. You want to talk about your first match?
Yes, please. That was a very nerve-wracking week because I think like 2 weeks before the actual school show, he announced it. And only 3 days before the card was made up. And I only found out the day before who I was wrestling. And I was wrestling one of the other like just purest, like amazing men that I've met in wrestling, which is Omari. Like both him and Paddy are just like two people that you meet and you're instantly like, why isn't every person like this? Why isn't every person as pure as this? Omari is such a gentleman, another like genius to wrestling. He can just open your eyes to certain things, and I think I'm using too much cliches, but really, if you want to learn like how to fix something in your repertoire, you can talk to Omari as well, and Omari will be like, yeah, you're doing that, but like maybe do this, and it's like, idiot, that's of course, duh. So I learned that I was facing him, and it kind of felt like both relief and vindication that not only am I getting in there with some of the best on the island, in my opinion, but also somebody that like I'm comfortable with, that is such a pro, but is such an easy person to talk to and an easy person to bop ideas off of. Like that match, like there's things in that match that were my suggestions, and he was like, yeah, no, that's really good. And I thought like wrestling would have just been like, of this guy's been doing it for X amount of years, I'm going to call the whole match, blah blah blah, and that was it. But no, like he listened to my ideas. Some of them he was like, no, stupid. But other ones he was like, oh, we can do it that way, we'll use that. But yeah, I was nervous calling the match, but actually just before going out the curtain, just I was nervous, but I was calm. Like I just went out and I did my thing, and it was the fastest like 13 minutes of my life, which went like that. I think we had a pretty good match up until near the end when I fuck it. But no, like it's still like I could not have asked for a better first match and a better first opponent, and yeah, I'm so thankful to not only Joe for the opportunity, but like Omari for giving me such a good base to grow upon, and I think I have grown upon that base as well. And yeah, I'm just forever grateful to Omari, and I think he's absolutely wonderful, and I can't wait to wrestle him again when I'm better and I'm closer to his level. Very
Who,
far off, but closer.
who
I,
knows? Like in like a couple of years, you should be taking that off from the OTT title.
Maybe. Sounds good.
But we were at that match, and it's one of the reasons we wanted to bring it up, because we 3 of the 5 of us went to it, and my missus came with us as well. My missus isn't a wrestling fan at all.
Yeah.
I remember we were sitting down when you came out, and the gimmick and everything, the whole crowd were chanting boots immediately and everything is. Like for me, it was my first OTT show, and I was like, okay, this must be an OTT fixture.
Yeah.
And it was only maybe, I could have the dates wrong. Was it like 2 or 3 weeks ago you wrestled Sammy D?
Yeah.
And like it was like the results of that show were up on like the Irish Wrestling Forum on Facebook. And I was actually chatting with a few randomers about it. And I was just there, and like one of them mentioned that match at that school show was your debut. And I remember being kind of sitting there being like, what? Like, it's like when you go to these things, you'd expect someone for their first match, you know what I mean, to be like falling about the place and everything like this. But you just came out like ripping, roaring, ready and prepped to go. Like, so it said a lot now, because even my missus, who again, no interest in wrestling, she kind of assumed the same as I did, that you were kind of like a mainstay in OTT and had been there for quite a while. So your reception was great, and you're getting a load of great feedback as well from the looks of it online. So any of this kind of self-criticism that we're hearing come out of small, but I'd be kind of pushing that in the wayside. You're doing pretty good, like, you know?
Thank you. I do appreciate it. No, it's like I said, like I couldn't have asked for a better first opponent, and a better first match. Like I said, it's a great solid foundation to kind of build upon. Like it could have been like my death nail. I could have like had a great match against Omari because he's great, and then like everything else been kind of. But ever since then, I think I've had better and better matches. I think like that match is like tied for one of my worst matches, and it's still really good. You know, like that's how much I personally feel like I've gotten better. And yeah, no, I'm again just grateful, and I'm really happy like that the whole boots thing got over. Because you know, I'd say most of that came from like my family, and then also a couple of people that I just have made friends with from the crowd, like Rory or Stephanie. You know, like they just were like, okay, you say boots, that's it, that your boots, there you go. That's, and yeah, no, and even my gimmick with my girlfriend at that time, Becky, the small one, like that was even getting like some receptions as well. So you know, it was pretty cool.
To be fair, that's another reason why I thought you were mainstay, because like it was that match. You know, you obviously you lost the match, and then she'd walked off. I thought, oh well, that must be the end of that story. Little did I know that was actually the beginning of the story.
And the end, it was both.
2 in one night. What a great night you had.
I know, Jess. But yeah, even her reaction, and she did a really good job as well. Like, yeah, I'm really happy with it. But I'm even more happy that I've had better matches, and it wasn't just a fluke. That's one thing. Like if it was a fluke, I'd hate that match. But no, like it's a great first match, and I think me and Omari could have a 20 times better match even now, because I've learned so much in. That was my first match, and I've had 5 since, and I'm just each one just getting. It's just making sense to me more, and it's like that meme where like it's the brain and like everything is coming out. It's just happening. That's my brain at the moment. So you know, I can't wait to wrestle him again.
As I said, who knows? One day, it's just there OTT title. But obviously, you know, you had the match with Omari. Who were before Sammy? Who were the other opponents that you had?
So I had a couple of dark matches. My second match, I actually teamed with Omari against the Social Elite, Maxer and
my favorite
Matthew.
two.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the Social Elite.
Yeah, they're good. They're good. And then I teamed with now Danny Cross, but then he was Jay. against Sweet and Sour in their second match together. And then after that, I had an 8-man tag match that was a complete disaster, but it was a lot of fun. And then I had a match against Mr. Rose himself in Wexford. That was my first ever graphic as well. Like I like little victories that I'm getting at this point is really cool. Like I got to be on like a OTT poster or like a match graphic, and I was like, oh, fucking highlight of my day. I don't care about the match anymore.
There's the Marcotte moment.
Yeah. Don't care about the match. I was on a poster, damn it.
So obviously now you get to Contenders. You're up against Sammy D. Run us through that day.
Oh. So I'll tell you this as well. The Wednesday before that, I was in training and I took a bad bump and hurt my shoulder. And it's still sore to this day. And I was on the Wednesday and I was like, oh God, if I can't move this by tomorrow, like I'm not getting a match at all. But luckily, like after it happened, I was still able to move. I'm still, the only thing I can't do is high five, and like that's it. So yeah, that Wednesday hurt my arm, and then we had a training camp after. So I was just like, I'm not doing it. I'm not risking hurting myself anymore. And then the Sunday of Contenders, we had a promo class before the show, and so I got there. I cut a promo. I was like, oh, I guess I was scared that like since I didn't do the 7 hour, possibly that ruins my chance or whatever. Again, stupid thoughts. I don't know why I get in my own head. But we get to the venue, set up the ring, and then Joe says, "Oh, I'm gonna tally up the card." So we had some dark matches before, so he announced all those, and then he started announcing the main card. And at this time, like nobody, not one single person knew who they were wrestling. Not maybe like the main was known, but other than that, nothing. Nothing was known. So sat there. King or Trulock gets his match announced. Type on there. Sam gets his match announced. Billy gets his match announced, or Noah Walker. He gets his match announced, and then I'm just sat there. Just like, oh, it's getting like close to the end of the card. Oh, and at this point, I think I was like third from the main, but like on the actual show, I was just after intermission. And then Joe just says Sammy D versus Boots Murphy, and the relief. Oh, it was like there was the pit that was in my stomach that was just immediately filled. Like that was, and it was one of the two opponents that I actually really wanted, and like legit, we did not know until earlier that day who we were wrestling, and yeah, I got Sammy, and I was like, yes, come on, get to wrestle Sammy, get to have a nice, simple, good match. And then I remembered, oh yeah, Sammy D. Shit.
Make him so.
So after the excitement, I was like kind of shitting myself. But once we got talking, like it's the most not nervous I've ever been like before going out. It's odd to me. I was more concerned and more nervous about not being nervous than it was just weird. I was just so calm, and like up until getting out of that curtain, like I was just completely nervous or completely just calm, not nervous at all. And yeah, went out. Me and him had a match. I felt just super comfortable in the ring, and then I came back, and I've been getting great feedback about the match, and it's definitely my best match. Like I think that's another base. That's another place where I can kind of grow from, because there's not things that it's not a perfect match, but like for my sixth match, like that's pretty good in my opinion, and from other people's opinions as well. So yeah, I that was a very nerve-wracking lead up to talking to Sam, and then after talking to Sam, just completely calm. And I think we had a decent match, so it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
And if people want to watch that match, they can check it out OTT on demand.
OTT on demand. Sign up now. It's however much it is. I don't
Get
know.
the plugs in there.
Yeah. Come on, Joe.
you redeemed yourself now after earlier on. It was like, I won't block you this week.
But you're threading nice. Yeah, I'm really happy, and if I can go on a little tangent as well about like I said, my group of guys that I started with, and even the guys that were like started a couple of years before us, like I think we are the luckiest. I just remembered I earlier on you asked me a question about training, and I spiraled off and I lost my train of thought. I just remembered it. But we got lucky. We had 2 rings in our talent school, and so one ring was the beginner's ring and the other ring was the advanced ring. And so we had about 6 months of just pure beginners training, which doesn't happen. Like if you come to the Phibsborough school at this point, it will be mixed. Like you won't be like thrown in just being like, oh, do a suicide dive right now. But then we really could, like Joe and the rest of the trainers could really nurture us. And I think that's the luckiest thing that us as beginners had, was not only are we like a really good supportive group of guys that actually like all of each other, but we also have had that time to just train and get trained as beginners and move up the ranks. And then eventually like we started having more advanced mixed classes, and then eventually like there was no beginners class, it was just the class. So just we have such a great group of guys. Like Sam is one of the most creative and like just confident people I've met, and he doesn't even know he's confident, if that makes any sense. Like he will come out and like, I have this 12 ideas, here's my 12 ideas, what do you think of them? And you're just there like, oh, okay, that's really good, that's really good. And he just believes in himself so much. And he was the first out of all of us to actually get onto a show. He only read poetry on the dark segment of Poetry Slam, but he was kind of the chip in the wall of like getting onto shows, because I'd say a lot of us was just like, oh, when are we going to actually have our first match? I've been training X, blah blah blah. But he was like, he got on that Poetry Slam, he read poetry, there we go. And then we have Keen Noonan, who's a very, very passionate person about wrestling. Like we are all passionate, but like he's a bit of a nerd when it comes to it. And then also he's like a fitness freak as well. So he can do things that not a lot of us can do in the ring. Like he can flip all over the place, but he is somebody that is just determined to make this his life. And it's really, really cool seeing his little victory. He recently put out a post of like his goals of 2022. He's marked every single one of them, and he's had more, which is cool to see. And I definitely think he deserves it. All of us deserve it. And then we have Josh as well, Bittersweet Josh, who, like, not only him, like there's other Italians as well, like Sam, that have come from a different country to come train here, and they've progressed. So they're not only like, they don't deserve the opportunity because they've traveled so far, but they actually have, they're really good. They're really, really good. And Bittersweet Josh is one of them. Like he's an absolute Greek god. He's just and he's like the sweetest person in shoot, brother. But yeah, no, he's freakishly strong as well, and he is another person. Again, I don't like repeat myself, but again, he's another guy that's really passionate and really deserves to kind of be where he is. And those 3 guys that I just mentioned there, they were the other chips that started forming in the wall because they started getting matches. The chips for me anyway. They all got matches at the Comic Con in Dublin this past. It was July.
It was July, kind of end of July.
Yeah. So they got their opportunities and they ran with it and they did really well. So that was another, like, if they all failed, like, I probably wouldn't have had my first match until like last month. But they took that mantle, they ran with it and gave the rest of us opportunities. And even guys that are just getting on shows as well, like Dara Truelock or Type 1D, Type 1 Dara, like, he is another guy that didn't watch OTT much, watched one show and was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. And now is one of the top of the classes. And he is just another freakish. All four of those guys are like freakish athletes. It's stupid, I hate. But he is another man that's really hardworking. Like, I just need to emphasize like how much everybody in that school works hard. And we even have people like Noah Walker or Billy. Like, he has just a great look. I think he really helps out as well behind the scenes. But like, he has a great look, and now that he's part of the detachment, I think
Perfect spot.
Yeah, perfect spot for him.
I've got to just like say, like, the class you mentioned there, you start off with, what a class, because like obviously we were at the first show.
Yeah.
Sem, I 100% agree with you. I saw Sem. I think it was Sem versus Renzo.
The opening match.
Yeah. Hilarious with having the tennis balls, a gigantic one. Hilarious. Saw a thing on his Instagram there today. He came out as Santa Claus. I'm sure the cars used to have as a kid.
Yeah.
I was dying laughing myself. Bittersweet Josh himself would tell you, when we saw that match, he stood his first match at the I think it was his first match at the school show, stood out for me so much. I went, oh, I could see him being something big.
Yeah.
And then obviously Cian Noonan, when we were supposed to see him at the Hard Knock show in Limerick, unfortunately he was injured. Another person that as you said, he was flying around the ring in that school school match. Like, what a class to have.
Yeah, like, Joe doesn't know what he has. I think, like, not only are we like just great friends, but we also are pretty talented, if I have to put myself in there.
Sometimes you got to pat yourself in the back.
We even have like people that aren't on shows yet. Like, there's a guy, I don't think many people know him, Jacob. I don't know what his ring name would be, but even him, I think once he finds what he needs to find, I personally can't say because I'm only a year in. Once he finds what he needs to find, he's going to be one of the funniest wrestlers in Ireland, in my opinion. And we have a lot of funny wrestlers, but like, he gets comedy. Like, he's very funny, and I can't wait till like he's actually on shows and you guys can look back to this and go, oh, Nathan was right. And we have like some other just guys that are there that are just like, you can see like some potential in them, and I can't wait for them to actually be on shows and share what like us 5 or 6 have had in the last couple of months. Because again, like, I've had my first match back in August, which was 4 months ago. Am I correct?
Yeah.
I've had my first match 4 months ago, and I've wrestled Omari, Sean Maxer Guinness, Fabulous Nikki, Sammy D, and Renzo Rose, which are some of like the stalwarts in modern Irish wrestling, and I've gotten to wrestle all of them, and even that is just a huge victory for me. I got to be in an OTT contenders preview, which was another little goal that I wanted to achieve in my career. Got to have like 6 matches as well, and just what we've done in such a short time. Once they got those guys that are still waiting to get onto cards, like they don't have long to wait, like, to start getting stuff that we got. And I'll be honest, like there was points when the other lads were getting opportunities. So I was like, oh, maybe I probably deserve that more, or blah blah blah, and started like that whole
Yeah.
toxic idea. But then you just take a step back and you're like, no, like
You start
these
to
people,
enjoy the moments
yeah.
more. You know?
Like I got to Comic Con and I got to watch Keen's debut, and I would, if I was vindictive or like a selfish person, I would have been like, oh yeah, it was terrible, blah blah blah. But I just sat there and was like, that's my friend living his dream. And yeah, I'm so happy for not only all the lads getting opportunities, but like all of us being able to share like the dreams. We are basically all starting at the same time, getting our matches at the same first matches at the same time. And just getting little victories like Dara Lynch of Kelly August Lynch put this into perspective for me. Like you can be envious, you can be jealous of other people, but like focus on your own victories. I've gotten my own personal victories. Like I got to be on Contenders and I got to be on a preview, behind the scenes stuff. Like I've gotten to produce like promos for people, and I've gotten to have my promos being played on the stadium show, which I freaked out when that happened. Um, like that, those lads would probably be like, "Oh, that's kind of cool, yeah, whatever." But they're like huge victories for me. And the other lads will have their own kind of victories. And yeah, once you start focusing on the things that you've done and not what other people are doing, you enjoy wrestling a lot more, and you get excited about other people. And yeah, we have such a great group of guys, and I can't wait to actually till not only me but also all the other guys get onto shows. Sorry if I'm waffling, but
No, you're absolutely grand. You're telling your story, and it's obviously praising all the other guys. It's brilliant.
yeah.
But I've got to ask you now. So obviously, 2022 is coming to an end. You're going into 2023. You spoke about Cian having a list and checking everything. What is the 2023 list looking like for Boots at the moment? Who do you want to face? What do you want to do?
Um, in a dream world, I'd love to have something with Eddie Kingston, but that won't happen. But I'd love to. I think we're very similar in size, so I'd love to have that. I think that would be a really hard hitting match, but that's I'm a bit too green for that. But in the long term, I'd love to actually be on an OTT main show. That'd probably be the first like goal that I'd like to achieve. Um, then wrestle all the guys that I started with. Some of the guys have gotten to wrestle each other, but I'd love to wrestle Josh. I have so many ideas with Josh. I'd love to wrestle Sam. Billion ideas with Sam. I'd love to wrestle Keen. Ideas. Yeah, and keep producing promos as well. I love being able to make promo packages for people and hype videos. That's I'd love to I love helping like people like break through with their character, and I feel like just producing more promos is another goal of mine. And then just getting outside of OTT, because I've only had OTT matches, which sounds weird. I've had like a School of Irish Wrestling, which isn't technically the same, but yeah, I've only had like OTT matches. I'd like to go up to the north and wrestle for NXG or Stay True or CAW. I love to wrestle for Fight Factory. I'd love to wrestle down in Cork as well for RCW. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I can maybe some of us can start branching out to the UK. I'd say the biggest goal, but like kind of an achievable big goal, would be wrestling in the UK for me. I think that'd be kind of cool. Um, like even some of the guys like Kelly August Lynch and CJ West, like they've gotten to wrestle in France recently. So it's not impossible. But yeah, those probably the main goals for me personally.
Well, we'd love love to see you down in Limerick for Hard Knocks maybe one day.
That's another one.
Get to see you live, and as well, people in Limerick who've never seen Boots wrestle will get to see Boots wrestle.
All right.
Oh,
and one more goal: get myself a new pair of boots.
there
you go.
Bring out the old pair, just retire them and change them into a new one.
Yeah.
Now that'd be something good with to do something with Sam. Give him the old boots.
Oh, you can just pull something out of my boots or something. I don't know.
Oh, do you know what? Honest to God, if that ever came about, I'd love to see that match.
Yeah, me too. I'd love to see it as well.
But MS, have you got anything you want to?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything now. We've actually covered a lot more than I thought we even would, to be honest with you, because I just found it so. No, it's all good. That's what we want. You know what I mean? Because one thing that we were saying, and it's one of those things that's so handy when you interview wrestlers. Wrestlers love to talk, which is great. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes I interview musicians all the time from other podcasts, and you could ask them a question that you'd expect them to talk for 5 minutes, and they could be like, "Yeah, it happened at this date, and yeah, that was pretty much that." And you're kind of looking at them like, "Oh fuck, what do we do now?" Do you know what I mean? So it's a nice change of pace. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, again, the highest compliments I can give you is the one that was shared on the Irish Wrestling Forum there a few weeks ago. The fact that when you walked out that day, that so many of us that were such noobs to OTT were convinced that you were a mainstay in your first match says quite a bit. So I'd say the future going forward is as bright as you want it to be. Do you know what I mean? And everything that you've outlined goals wise, I think you're going to have no problem achieving those goals. It's because as well as that, the day of that match, the amount of OTT wrestlers that actually shared footage of that match on their Instagram and their Twitters and stuff like that. So you've got, whatever about the fan base, outside of the guardrail, within the guardrail as well, you seem to have a good support network there. So I don't think there's any fear of Boots in 2023.
Fingers crossed.
And just again, another thing as well, because it's just popped in my head. You mentioned it to say you had said, I can't remember who had said it was, but they went to their first OTT show. Went, yeah, okay, I can do that. It is such a thing. I said this with Foxy. For someone who's like you, saw it, and you just in your head you just go, oh my god, it's right there.
Yeah,
it's there. I remember, I've been a wrestling fan for years. Knew of OTT, but I didn't watch OTT. And then your actual debut show, the School of Irish Wrestling show, that was my first Irish show.
Really? Jesus.
Yeah, first Irish show. And the thing is, we went over going, okay, well, let's see what it's like. It'll probably be what it is. Two of us, and his missus, who doesn't really care for wrestling, went, wow, what a show. We went to, I was at 8-year anniversary, again, blew me away. It's just, I went to the first Hard Knock show. It's just, if you're an Irish person listening, it's there.
Yeah, it is there. And not only, I haven't been to much Irish shows outside of OTT shows. Been to a few, but with an OTT show, you are getting an entertaining show, no matter what one you go to. It's always entertaining. You do not have to enjoy wrestling. That Contenders show, one of my friends went to it. He'd never seen wrestling in his life, only came to support me, and he really, really enjoyed it. He enjoyed some of the matches that weren't mine more than my one. So if you ever get a chance, if you're listening to the podcast, because you're friends with these guys, or you've just stumbled upon it, really, really consider going to an OTT show, especially one of the bigger ones, especially our Complex show and our Belfast show coming up in January and this month as well. You not only get to see WWE legends, you get to see Irish talent, and you get to connect with that Irish talent, because there's always something that you can relate to, whether it be Session Moth Martina, whether it be the snobs of the social elite and their whole shtick, the lads from the flats, rest in peace, they would have been perfect as well. The draw as well, there's always something that you can latch onto and you can just relate to, and OTT is just consistent in offering entertaining show. Even if you're like, that wasn't as good as the last one, but you'll have 10 things to point at that show and be like,
Yeah.
that was entertaining, that was entertaining, that was entertaining. And you'll always have a good time. And you might see the boots.
The thing is, as well, like just for the people listening, like Foxy kind of put it best was he said there's two things you're near enough guaranteed with an OTT show. One is surprising matches, and two, you never know who might show up.
Yeah.
Never know. But I want to be very respectful of your time and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for coming on Boots. If you have anything you want to plug, feel free, work away.
I'd like to plug my stuff first. So I have an Instagram. It's Nathan Murphy _00. I think I can't remember my handle, but if you look up Boots or Nathan Murphy, you'll be able to find me there. I have a Twitter that's at VanceYT. And then OTT, just come to the shows, and as well the school. If you want to actually learn how to wrestle, you can go to the other schools. That, like, you'll still learn how to wrestle, but if you really want to get a great perspective on wrestling, personally, I'd feel coming to the School of Irish Wrestling, whether you're coming from a different country or you're in Ireland, you will have your eyes opened, whether it's a Paddy class or a Joe class or a Martina class or whatever, or a Lee class. You should definitely, if you think about wrestling or if you've started wrestling, come to one class, come to two. It's well worth it. That's my piece.
Well, again, thank you very, very much, Boots, for coming on. Honest to God, this was absolutely, it was very insightful from yourself. So thank you again. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Nathan Boots.
Boots! Sorry, I had to get in.
Oh, you're good. No, that was